Paulo Fonseca's arrival at AC Milan signals an exciting new era for the storied club. Renowned for his tactical expertise, Fonseca is focused on bringing stability and balance to Milan's play. His strategy emphasizes enhancing the team's attacking cohesion whilst ensuring a solid, disciplined defense. This combination of creative offense and defensive structure makes Fonseca a perfect match for AC Milan. Here is how you can recreate his tactics in FC24. Paulo Fonseca's AC Milan will often look to set up in a 4-2-3-1 system. Now, this system can evolve and adapt and morph into various other formations. A 4-4-2 when out of possession of the ball and they're looking to set up in a decent block, whilst also looking to add a bit of pressing and probing to try and create offensive turnovers. You will also see when the offensive structure is set in place, a 3-2-5 system formulates, and this will allow for that attacking cohesion to occur, having likes of Rafael Leao combined very frequently and effectively with the left back. That could be Salamakers, that could be Theo Hernandez, and you will see a lot of interchange between the likes of Pulisic as well as Chukwueze down at the right hand side. For the tactical approach of Fonseca's AC Milan side, it will align itself with the tactical vision being set to wing play. The likes of Rafael Leao will always look to frequently combine in those wider areas of the field with the fullback, as well as on the right hand side. The reason why Pulisic has been deployed is he likes to drift into those wider right channels and interchange and exchange passes with the likes of the right winger. Now, a lot of your attacks will stem from those wider flanks, and you will look to try and pull the opposition into those wider zones, opening up a lot of central space for an inverted fullback or an inverted winger to attack that space that's been vacated, as well as open up a lot more space for the striker. For the defensive approach for this team, the defensive style will be set to pressure on heavy touch. They will look to align themselves with a very compact 4-4-2 system, having likes of Pulisic or Rafael Leao join the striker up front looking to press and probe. And if they do create a potential turnover, they will look to counter and turn that into a swift transition. For the team's defensive structure, it does tend to narrow itself very effectively in those central zones. You will see a lot of central pressing occur between your double pivot players, and you will look to try and break up any potential offensive rhythm that the opposition's midfield might be looking to create and generate in those central areas of the pitch. And then finally, for the team's defensive depth, it should be set to 60, as Paulo Fonseca does like to deploy a side in a mid-block that can look to contribute on both the offensive and defensive phases of play. The offensive antics for this AC Milan side have definitely evolved from last season. We tend to see a 3-2-5 system formulate, and that allows for a lot more fluidity to occur with the attacking outlets. Now, for the build-up play, I have set this to slow build-up, as this will allow you to effectively be able to play out from the back. That is a key fundamental element to building the AC Milan attacks under Paulo Fonseca. You will see a lot more slower progression, but you will see a lot more cohesion, fluidity, interchangeability between certain players. Of course, the chance creation will be set to balance, as this will incorporate the possession-based brand of football that Fonseca does want from his team, but it can also entice the transitions to occur, having the likes of Rafael Leao making those aggressive runs in behind, looking to be a bit more of a direct attacking player, or the same can be said for the right-hand side with Chukwueze or even Pulisic looking to make those more direct attacking plays. The offensive width for the side should be set to 70, which does tend to lean into the wider attacking zones, but you will also see a solid balance between your attacking in the interior zones as well as the wider flanks. Now, essentially, Fonseca does like his side pulling the opposition's defensive backline regions into those wider zones, opening up a lot of central space for your midfield players to rotate into, or even your striker and your attacking midfielder. And therefore, with a lot of the attacks stemming from those wider regions of the field, Fonseca does want a lot of his players to get into the box, looking to try and capitalize on any chances created from those wider regions. And so the players in the box should be set to 8. Finally, the corners as well as the free kicks should be set to 4. As we take a look at the individual player roles and instructions, we'll start off at the front with the striker in Nikola Jovic, and these instructions will also be applied to a player like Alvaro Morata. Now, for the support runs, I have set him to a balance width, allowing him to drift all over the place as well as maintain those central zones. He can also look to be an offensive linchpin in the attack, looking to hold up the ball in those central zones and link up very effectively with the attackers in and around him. Now, essentially, we saw multiple times in the first game versus Torino, Jovic would tend to drop into the midfield zones, combining very effectively with the likes of Christian Pulisic, almost functioning as a number 10, but he will be deployed as a false 9, as he does tend to drop off the opposition's backline, either pulling the defenders into the midfield zones, opening up central space for the likes of Pulisic, Leao, Chukwueze to go ahead and try and exploit with their advanced runs further forward, or he can just look to drop into the midfield zones and look to create overloads in those central areas. You will also see here that the interceptions will be set to normal, and then finally you want him to come back on defense having him drop very deep into those central zones when you are trying to build up the play. Now, the man to play just in behind him is the number 10 in Christian Pulisic, and he'll be set to come back on defense. Quite often, we would see Pulisic formulate a very solid midfield three, dropping quite deep, looking to try and help defend, but also being very involved in the build-up play in those first or second phases of the play. The support on crosses should be set to balance, as he does tend to balance the attacking outlet, whether he gets in the box or he tries to help facilitate as that key number 10 on the edge of the area. The most important thing is having him drift wide. You do tend to see him drifting into those left or wider right channels, looking more effectively to combine nicely with the likes of Chukwueze down that right-hand side and looking to create offensive overloads in those wider zones. Finally, the interception should be set to aggressive, as he does tend to be the pressing trigger for the side. He will look to try and lead that aggressive counter press, win the ball back, and look to turn it into a potential offensive transition. The likes of Samuel Chukwueze will be set to come back on defense, as he does tend to drop back and very effectively help the likes of Calabria down at the left-hand side. He'll also be set to maintaining a balance width, as you tend to see him in the wider right zones, or effectively combining with Pulisic in the central areas of the pitch. But otherwise, the support runs should be left on balance, as well as the interceptions left on balance, as well as the support on crosses left to a balanced approach. You can look to attack in the interior zones or stay on the edge of the box and whip in crosses or cutback opportunities for the attackers inside the box. Onto the opposite side of the field, and for the left midfielder in Rafael Leao, he will be set to maintaining a basic defensive support. Now, Leao doesn't really tend to drop back and help support on the defensive end. He's more or less the offensive spark and outlet for this team. But I have set him to a basic defensive support, as we will tend to see Rafael Leao drop deep in brief moments and collect the ball in those deeper zones, and that is essentially what this will allow him to do. Now, what I noticed from the preseason as well as the first game versus Torino is Salamakers or Theo Hernandez would look to effectively combine with Leao, and you would see them balance out who's attacking the wider zones and who's attacking the central areas. Now, effectively, you can set him to maintain a balanced width, but it tends to keep him out wide quite a bit. And we did see Leao drift inside a fair amount, attack the central zones, function as a secondary striker, or even a secondary number 10 looking to attack those midfield zones alongside Pulisic and Bennett Sir, as well as Loftus-Cheek. So you want him to free roam, and this will help him balance those attacking outlets out very effectively. The support runs will be set to balance, as he is quite good at holding up the play, being a target player, or making those aggressive runs and being a bit more of a direct attacking player in behind. So that is why a balanced approach best suits how he plays. Finally, the interception should be set to normal, and you want him positioning himself for those attacking crosses or cutback opportunities inside the box more times than not. Into the central area of the park, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek as well as Bennett Sir will formulate a double pivot, looking to provide a lot of defensive structure for the side, whilst providing a solid platform for the other attackers to build up off of. As mentioned, there will be a very structured duo with the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who is deployed as a central midfielder, being set to stay back while attacking as well as stay on the edge of the box. Quite often you will see him collect the ball in those deeper zones and drive forward with it, looking to lay it off into one of his teammates and then regroup back into that double pivot structure. The interceptions will be set to normal, and then finally you want him to maintain a cover the wing defensive position as well as a stick to position for the positioning freedom on the offensive end. Whereas Bennett Sir, who will be deployed as the natural number 6 at the side, looking to drop quite deep, looking to help formulate a good offensive platform to build up off of, his defensive behavior will be set to cut passing lanes. Both him and Loftus-Cheek will be very involved in trying to disturb any potential passing sequences that the opposition might be looking to create in those central areas of the field. Now, just like with his counterpart, he will be set to stay back while attacking, but due to the fact that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is deployed as the central midfielder, the number 8 of the side, he will drift slightly further up the field, allowing for Bennett Sir to be the deepest midfield player at all times. The interceptions will be set to normal, and then finally you want him deployed as that deep lying playmaker. Quite often you would see the likes of Bennett Sir collect the ball off of the goalkeeper, one of the centre backs, or even one of the fullbacks in those deeper zones and progress it further forward, and that is exactly what this will do for him. Your left back in Salamakers, or it could potentially be Theo Hernandez, they'll have the same role and instructions, and most importantly, you want them to be the more attacking fullback of the two. So for Salamakers, he will be set to join the attack. You want him combining very frequently higher up the pitch with Leao. Now for the run type and the run patterns that you will see, I have set this to mixed, as quite often we will see a good interchange between who attacks the central zones and who attacks the wider angles. And with it being set to mixed, you will see Salamakers attacking the interior zones, or forcing the likes of Leao into the interior zones, attacking those half spaces, and he will look to overlap the winger and whip in crosses from those slightly wider angles. Finally, the defensive position should be set to stick to position. As we switch over to the right hand side, and Calabria will be set to maintaining a basic role for all of his instructions, you tend to see him formulate that back three, not really adventuring too far forward, but if the opportunities do present themselves, he will look to either underlap or overlap, and that is why I have left him on a mixed attacking type, for the run type at least. But you will see him getting forward if the opportunities do present themselves and trying to either facilitate a cross or a cutback opportunity. Your right-sided centre-back in Tomori will be set to maintaining his base role and instructions. You don't need to do too much about that. He'll often look to try and be the cover centre-back of the two, as the likes of Malik Tior does tend to be a bit more of the aggressor of the two, stepping up, being a bit more imposing towards the opposition and looking to deal as much defensive damage as possible. Now you will see that both Tior as well as Tomori are very good at being able to play out from the back, collecting the ball, progressing with those, line breaking passes further forward, or even looking to try and switch the play with that cross-field ball into the wider attackers. But like I said, both are very good and composed under pressure, and they can look to establish that first phase build-up play very effectively. And then finally, onto the goalkeeper in Mike Mignon, who will also be very essential in that first phase build-up, looking to invite the press and the pressure from the opposition and being composed enough to play those passes into the centre backs or the midfield zones, or even further forward into the forward line if you are looking to go a bit more direct. Now for his instructions, I have set him to maintain a balanced role for the saving on crosses, as he does tend to alternate between whether he's going to be very aggressive and assertive in the air or stay on his line and have the centre backs deal with those aerial threats. You will also see that I have set him to maintain that sweeper keeper role, as like I mentioned earlier, he will be very important in trying to establish that first phase build-up play, but he's also very good at reading the opposition's attacking outlet, whether they are going to play a ball in behind, and he needs to be able to read that, sweep up, sweep in behind the backline and protect them as best as possible. And there you go, people. That is how I effectively go ahead and recreate Paulo Fonseca's AC Milan tactics for FC24. I do hope you have enjoyed this video. If you don't mind showing your appreciation for the video and smashing that like button, that would be fan-damn-tastic. As well as subscribe. We are on the road to 10,000 subs, and it would be an absolute honor for you to be a part of that journey. We also have a Discord server called the Brom Squad Gaming Discord server, and the link will be down below for you to go ahead and join. We are chatting everything FC24, everything FC25, and of course, real life football. We do tend to have some really good debates on that. But if you are interested, go ahead, click the link down below. You can join up with that and join in with the conversations. Anyways, until the next time, until the next one, I hope you guys have a smashing goddamn day, and I'm out of here. Peace.